Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase, the podcast that helps you succeed better in your business life and career. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, with the Modern Observer Group, and with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing fantastic. How about you, Eric?
I'm doing all right, but as we record this, it is October 7th, and it is the 1 year anniversary of the horrific events in the Middle East. So I want to reach out to our listeners, and for all of you who know people over there who have relatives or friends that may have been affected, our thoughts are with you. We have a special guest today. Chip, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yes, I recently met Judy at a networking meeting when we got together, and I found out about all the wonderful things she has done with her life, from dancing to a whole bunch of other wonderful things. And now she's a career and personal coach, and she has a special approach to doing that too. So, Judy, just t tell us about your journey. Dance us through that. Pun
Uh,
intended.
well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's delightful to be here with you. As you said, my name's Judy Garfinkel. I'm actually Judith, but nobody calls me that. Um, I am currently a career transformation coach where I specialize in career transition and job search. I've been doing this for 13 years. I made this transition because I had been in education for a very long time and had been working with teachers in professional development, and was really seeing the natural that I could bring my natural gifts that I'd been developing over the years to this next phase of my life. And so it was a career shift for me and a transformation. But my first career transformation was a doozy. I had been living my dream of being a professional ballet dancer in New York City, and I realized that I had been wanting to do it and had done it since I'm 11 years old. And one day it occurred to me, it was a more of a slower process than that, but it finally finalized that it wasn't a fit anymore. And I was really lost. Had no idea that there was a person like me that could exist in the world, that could ask me good questions at the right time and provide me with a process to help me figure out what was next. I thought I didn't have any skills. I thought I didn't know anybody. I didn't have, had made uh, what I would call a different non-traditional path. I didn't go to college in order to pursue my dream. So I felt very much at a loss. And after years in education, I decided to be that person for other people.
So, not having access to someone like yourself, how did you make the decision that being a ballet dancer was no longer for you?
It was a sense of having not wanting to have not wanting to have a I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It was my dream, and I wasn't fulfilling other parts of myself. I was sad a lot. And I realized something wasn't right. I didn't know what else was out there for me, but I knew that this was no longer right. It was very heartbreaking and difficult decision to make.
And are feelings like that common in the folks that you help now?
Yes, there are kind of two areas of I would say that of people I work with in terms of the way they approach this. One is the new to the world of work, people who are either young and are out of school and have no idea how to get what they want, but they kind of know what they want. And then there are people who are more sort of like I was, and that could be at any time in a career where you've been doing something that you felt you were supposed to do or you wanted to do, and now it no longer fits. And that happens as a result of maturation, of new interests, new things that happen in our lives that we're not in control of, that change who we are and what we want and need in order to thrive in work.
Yeah,
So,
your story on your website, as far as talking about yourself, it starts saying there's a way to get there a lot quicker than I did, and you talk about delving into neuroscience, learning theory, somatics, improvisational dance, and so on and so forth, mindfulness, and reconnecting to the dormant, unexplored parts. And you said you got a lot more honest inside and calmer too. And then through this, you rediscover your gift in a new form, recognizing what it is essential in others and empowering them to bring joy, freedom, and success into their lives. And I mean, obviously, when I first met you, and what I talk about, we were basically attracted to each other and walked up to each other right after our first meeting, saying we got to get together and talk about this. But basically, you did a whole lot of self-searching and whatever. So you've been through this, and you can share your experiences with the people that you're dealing with, and obviously with your enthusiasm and your leadership on this. I'm sure it's just been like a joyful journey that probably doesn't even seem like work in a lot of ways for you, just like dancing was second nature.
Yeah, and it was a great way to put together all of those things that I had spent my time focused on, interested in my own growth, as well as bringing that to, I was a teacher, so I was bringing that to my students. I was bringing it to the other teachers that I was teaching to become better teachers. And when you are, one of the things I love to say to people is when you learn the neuroscience of learning, how people learn, what you're really learning is the science of change, because it's the same. And so when you know how to approach people as humans who are on the path, who are, I find human development incredibly fascinating. And so at different phases of life, different needs, different people, different kinds of brains, different personalities, all of that comes together for me to customize a process and personalize the process for the individual in front of me. And that's the exciting work for me. And the inner work and the outer work is what makes it transformational. Otherwise, it's a change, it's a transition, and that's okay too. But what makes it a transformation is becoming the person who can make the change and figure it out and get there. And though that's all about professional and personal development being intertwined, which is kind of.
Fantastic. So, when a client comes to you for the first time, how do you start that process? Where does it begin?
Well, at first, it begins with a get to know you call, which I offer to anyone who wants to get to know me and what I do, and for me to see whether I can help them. And if I think I can help them, I will say so, and we take it from there. If it's someone I'm not think if I don't think I can help them, then I will direct them to someone if I can, who I think can do be better suited to them. So it starts with that. And then if we agree that we want to work together and we do all the little bits of paperwork one needs to do, we have a first session. And normally the first session is like a 90-minute, I'm dropping into your life. So I'm going to get the big picture of you, because a career isn't separate. You're not two different people. You bring out different
Yep.
aspects of yourself, but you're one person. And so I want to hear from you about who you are, what impacts your life, how you live, where you thrive, where you don't thrive, and how that might impact our work together and what might actually support our work together. And so there's often a lot of insights that happen for the client, even in that session, around how the different parts of their life interact with each other and pull on each other. I call it a life web. So I usually do that first. That said, sometimes people, if it's a person who's in a sort of a desperate situation and it's really, really urgent, I try and ask them to do that with me anyway, because I can serve them so much better. But if I need to, I can zip it along, and move a little bit more quickly. Everybody needs something different. I offer the full cycle from who are you to salary negotiations, all the way through, the job search and materials. But people come at different times in that cycle, and I take them where they are and bring them where they want to go.
Nice. So, do the majority of the people that come to you have an idea of where they want to go, or are they starting from scratch?
I would say half and half, just about half and half.
So, for someone that doesn't have an idea where to go, how do you help them figure it out?
Well, I have a lot of tools I draw on. I don't use them all for everybody. We do a bunch of exercises. I have some assessments I might use. Some might benefit from one kind of assessment. Sometimes people come to me already having done assessments. So I might look at what part of themselves and part of what we might need to know to figure this out hasn't been addressed yet. So, for example, they have a personality assessment, but maybe they haven't really looked at their interests that much. Or maybe they've done a lot of skills and strengths, but they don't really understand what a strength really is, or they haven't done their values work. So all of these things go into your career vision for what you want for yourself. And we have to explore all these things. Some people come having done some and not a lot. And some are younger and some have been around a little bit longer and may know themselves better, but not necessarily. um, and so this whole sort of self-awareness, self-exploration starts for those people to take them through a bunch of different things. I don't do the same thing with everybody. I have a framework that I work through that takes you from self-exploration through possibilities, through options, and through the job search aspects. But how that looks for each person is really different. And if they come in already knowing what they want and they're kind of stuck because their job search isn't working, then we start with job search and we diagnose what's not going right with their job search and we take it from there. So it all depends on who shows up.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's nice that you have, obviously with your experience, but just with who you are, a flexible approach, and you're prepared to basically talk to anybody about anything to get them going, which is really a unique talent because a lot of people who are just focused on, looking at the checklist and so on and so forth and going down these things, it's probably not the right way to start a job search, especially if you don't know what you want to do. So I'm
Yeah,
sure some
everyone's
people are focused, but that's a great way to just get going. So
you need a free framework, right? A process to take people through, but it's people are unique and they need to feel unique and know they're unique. That's what they how they bring value to the world of work. So why would I treat them any other way?
plus it's a fun way to approach it. You get to know people better, and I'm sure you've met a whole lot of interesting people along the way.
It's one of the best parts of the job is meeting really interesting people. You know, part of when I was a teacher, and I was before I was teaching teachers, I taught across all of the age groups, everything from 3 years old through college. And actually still am working in some colleges with career courses now. And that was what I loved was the ability to see the full spectrum of growth and to understand how people the developmental stages as well as the unique way each person fit into that. And that's what I bring to my coaching. It's just exciting to me to have that breadth of client and breadth of way to work with people.
Excellent. It is so important that you have an idea of where you want to go. We're in the baseball postseason right now, so I think it's very appropriate to pull a quote from Yogi Berra. If you don't know where you're going, be careful, you might not get there.
That's exactly right. So a word that that has been around for a while that I would say is apt here is intentional, right? You need to be intentional about how you approach this. People are going to make career changes throughout their life. I think people make an average of 5 or 6 now in their adult lives, which didn't used to be that way, a million years ago, but now it is. And so to be able to be intentional about how you go about this, to know what you want so that you can make a plan for how to get there, but not be so rigid that you don't see opportunities around you when they show themselves is sort of the way to go. And people can go on either end. They kind of float and let things just happen to them too much, or they might be so rigid and focused that on like being getting to be president of the company or whatever, that they don't see what else, and they don't see the way that they're changing themselves and what they might need that's different.
Right. And I think that's a very important point to reiterate. Just because you started your career in a certain place, people change over the course of their lives, and that career path may no longer fit you.
Absolutely. I lived that,
Well,
right? Um,
yes.
and that is very much true for all people. And sometimes it's just a minor tweak maybe you need to make in the role that you're playing. There might be something that small. Just change it to get more of what you want out of the role once you know what it is you need. And sometimes it's a bigger shift and change. And sometimes it's drastic. And it isn't always from inside out, the wanting that. It's sometimes, life hands us things that require us to make adjustments that affect our careers and how we might need to make money, a divorce, for example, um, or an injury, or a health issue, or something like that that we don't have control over, that changes who we are and what we need.
So I was having this conversation with someone not too long ago. I have been in business for 15 years and no longer have any idea how the job search from the job seeker's point of view works anymore. The last time I looked for a job, you were looking on job boards and sending in resumes. What does the job search look like now?
What a great question. And I have clients who come to me who have I have a lawyer right now who hasn't looked for a job in 20 years. A couple of things. One is the job search is what's still the same is that people matter. And the people that you know and who you can connect you to people matter. Chip and I had a long conversation about
Yes.
working. Um, and that's still the same. What's different is that in the interview processes have gotten much longer, particularly recently. I have to keep up with how these things change. I have to talk to HR people. I have to see a lot because it changes fairly quickly as our world does now. Things change quite rapidly. There's AI now, which is a whole other conversation, which we could spend another half an hour on. But people still do apply on job boards. It can go out in the ether. Every company does it really differently. But what I haven't noticed is that what used to be two interviews is now five.
Five now.
Three
Wow.
to five. I just heard a client recently who had a six-part interview from the screening through the final interview. And some of these are ones that require a demonstration, but not all of them. Companies are being way more um, careful and not necessarily efficient, not necessarily making the right decisions, but they are being more careful about how and they hire people, which is agonizing from the my client's perspective. It can take months, and then sometimes they're quick. It just depends on the company too, right? Different fields, very different where there are and levels. Entry level jobs is a different story usually.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned obviously we met in a networking environment, and obviously who you know is so, so important. And if you and your circle can just identify people to help you out, obviously you personally would help them out, but I'm sure you are telling people, okay, if you're looking to these things, do you have people in your life that you can talk to about that? Because, you mentioned up to five or more interviews. Um, Obviously, if you go for an interview and you come highly referred by somebody the interviewer trusts a lot, that can shorten the process a whole lot. So I think that I'm sure that you teach people to do this, but if they do their own homework as far as identifying what they're good at, what they want to do, and so on and so forth, but also who they know or who they need to know. If you go to a networking meeting and you're looking for a job, what you need to do is identify the people that you need to know that might open the doors for you. That's
Right.
obviously you say I want to get in
Yep.
this company or whatever, but if you,
Absolutely.
the more specific that you are in your approach and prepared, and I'm sure you teach people how to do this, um,
Yep.
it knocks the time in the search down, and you and your future employer are probably going to end up being a lot more perfect match because you've gone through that process ahead of time.
Absolutely. Networking is huge. I think I might have told you that I like to use the expression net weaving, which is actually someone else's oh, I just forgot his name. Um, It's someone else's term, which I came across years and years ago, which is the idea of being the person who connects other people to each other. And not just someone who is creating relationships for yourself, but you're also creating relationships for other people. Jonathan starts with an L. Anyway, he this idea. I'm teaching a course right now, which to give you an example of my range. I'm teaching two different courses, career transition courses. One is for the graduating seniors of the dance division at the Hart School at the University of Hartford. Makes sense, right? And the other one is an international MBA, three international MBA programs in Portugal. And they are a group of men and women from ages like 35 to 55 who have just got, who are MBA candidates and are going to be outgoing and looking into the world. So two very different experiences, but the content is still very much the same. And that around it and around interviewing is that there are kind of two ways that people use their network when they're trying to figure out what they might want to do and they have some possibilities. They're looking to their network to learn more about those roles. Maybe I want to be a lab technician. So who do I know that I can talk to who they know, someone who's a lab technician could tell me more about what it's actually like, to give me advice and inspiration, maybe to find out more. And then there's the kind of job search, active job looking for once I know what I want, building your network and accessing your network to be able to do what you said, Chip. And those are two uses of a building and weaving a network that are really important. The students that I'm talking to are graduating seniors. I'm saying to them right now, who's your network right now? Hold on to them. Look at, join your alumni association. I'm your network now. Follow me on Instagram because I'm going to be your network. If you keep in touch with me, I will be there for you. Like, do this. And because they haven't been in the world of work, so they don't know. And if they're not naturally gregarious or natural, some people are natural networkers. Chip, you're a natural networker, right?
It took work.
Did it?
I was
Yeah.
not born a natural networker.
Well, some people, I
Yeah.
had a student last year that I was working with who was a natural networker. It was like breathing to him. But most of us are not. I had to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
Most of us are not. So, giving that and then talking to the adult MBA students who they already have a network. What does that look like? I mean, everybody has one, but theirs is slightly larger. Because I learned something interesting that in Portugal, you cannot be a candidate for an MBA unless you've already had at least 5 years in the business world.
Oh, that is interesting.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
Yes. And it is very important to be proactive in a job search. I was talking with a few hiring managers recently, and the two things that they had said that stuck with me, one was that we're talking about networking. They fill more than 90% of their job openings through networking before the job description is ever posted anywhere. They go to their networks and go, who do you know that can do this? And that's how those jobs are getting filled.
That's what I say to my clients that if you're seeing it advertised, that means they haven't found somebody internally. So if you're looking for like trolling around trying to think, what would I like to do with my life? And you're looking at job descriptions, kind of don't bother because you're not seeing what's out there. Number one,
Yep.
you're not seeing all the choices. But then if you are trying to get a job in that field, knowing, I can just tell you, like, just when I was a teacher, that's the first thing they did was they said, who did you know? And it's the people who are inside who know if they're thinking about leaving.
Right.
They know that their best friend in, accounting told them that they're going to be leaving, but they haven't told anybody yet. And so that's how, get ready, get
Yes.
yourself ready because my friend so and so told me there's going to be a position. And that's the knowing somebody. And the way you do that is you get out there into the world and you talk to people.
Absolutely. And the other thing that these hiring managers mentioned to me is that they all seem to have the same pet peeve. And this was when job candidates come to an interview and they don't know anything about the company.
Research, research, and research.
Yep.
My dad was in real estate. He used to say location, location, location. And I say to my clients, research, research, research. And don't just read the first page of the website. Yes, absolutely. And you know what's so funny is I hear a lot from the candidate's point of view, right? And so one of the students the other day just asked me this great question. I love these questions. She said, "How come when I send in my interview, I send in my resume to HR, and they call me in, they say, 'Walk me through your resume.' Why didn't they read my resume?" And then we had this wonderfully rich conversation about what do you think the question under the question is really asking you? Because that's a lot of interview prep is. What do you think they're really asking you? They're not telling you they didn't read your resume. I mean, maybe they didn't, but that's not what they're really looking for. They're looking for how you tell your story about how you're right for this job and how you ended up here looking for it. So how are we going to do that? She went, oh, right.
Right. Well, it's how you tell your story, and also a lot of resumes, they tell what the job positions that people were in. But what hiring managers want to know is, what did you actually accomplish at those positions? What were the results?
Well, that should be on your resume. If not, you don't have a good
Yeah.
resume. And
That's true, but unfortunately, most people don't have a good resume.
they have to hire me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The because that's the first rule of a good resume is the resume's job. The resume only has one job only. And I actually wrote a blog called "Would You Hire Your Resume" to do its
I
job?
like that.
And the job is to get them to want to call you in to talk to you. That's its job. It isn't you get you the job.
Yep.
The resume opens the door. And so, how does the resume needs to say how you made a difference and how that difference relates to the job that you're looking for. So, people say this a lot. If you're in a career transition, you need to create materials. It's like dress for the job you want.
Yep.
You need to create the resume and all this for the job that you want, not the job you just had, because otherwise they'll say no. So it's really important to really have good, up to date materials. It matters enormously because the person who you met who's going to take your resume down to HR or ask them to flag it is going to need those materials. And that's
Absolutely. And we are just about at the end of our time. So before we wrap up, if somebody wants to avail themselves of your services, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can email me at judy@moveintochange.com, or they can go to moveintochange.com and fill out my contact form. I'll get right back to them. Those are the two best ways.
Fantastic. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
Oh man, there's so much. Obviously, you asked about the search, and I haven't been searching for a long time. Also, I mean, we talked about resumes and this and that, and whatever, and we've talked a lot about networking. But a resume, like you're talking about, it's just a teaser to get people interested in you. And that what you folks out there have to realize is that the person who's interviewing you is also a person. And when you go to a networking meeting and you're looking to meet other people that might help you out, everybody's really wearing a badge saying, "What's in it for me?" It's the same thing for the person who's interviewing you. So that is really, really important. But you talked about the search and all the different things that have happened over the years. You talked in your narrative on your website, you said you use over 100 cool tools from your 30 plus years of helping others get unstuck and moving to their next thing, their next right thing. It's your superpower. And I love this close. Talk about a teaser. And if you're still reading, you just might be one of my people. You told everybody out there, it just starts with a phone call. Judy, it's been wonderful having you on here, and I hope you get a lot of phone calls as a result of this.
Oh, thank you. It's a real pleasure to talk with you both.
It was great having you here. I think the big takeaway for me is, some things never change, and you do need to be out there working to get that next job. You need to have your network looking for you, and you need to build that network before you need it, which a lot of people don't realize. So get out there, network, and figure out what it is you want to do, and then go succeed. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.